workers, family support, and work responsibility. Psychological issues for people with sickle cell disease and their families mainly result from the impact of pain and symptoms on their daily lives and society attitude and those affected. There's considerable variability in the ability of people with sickle cell disorder to cope with their condition. People with the disorder experience different levels of health, and such variations can lead to differences in psychological functioning. Some people cope relatively well, attend school or work. This is our focus on this week's episode of Health Options, the program that not only tracks government policies on health, but helps you with the information you need to make informed choices about your health. Thanks for joining us on the program. I am Rabi Abdullah. Our complementary segment, Nature Scanner, brings us important tips on how sickle cell sufferers could cope with the harmattan so it doesn't take a toll on their health.
Curious about how government policies on healthcare are faring? Do you enjoy learning about wellness concept and the many options available? Then watch Health Options on the NTA.
Mr. President has led by example. Take the COVID-19 vaccine.
Somebody can say, hey, I woke up this morning, I felt some tingling in my hand, some weakness, my face was, I couldn't speak well. That's a warning stroke, and it shouldn't be ignored.
The carrots contains carotene. Tomatoes is a colored plant. It has carotene. Pepper has carotene.
50% of our diet should be green vegetables and fruits.
Join leading experts on both orthodox and alternative medicine for all the enlightenment you need for a healthier you.
Thanks for joining us on the program. I am Rabi Abdullah. This is Health Options, and our focus is sickle cell disorder, and we shall dwell on the mental health and psychosocial factors peculiar to sufferers. My guest is a sickle cell warrior who have not only surmounted the odds but given back to sufferers, particularly the less privileged. His name is Shehu Alaitan Mohammed, founder Some Sickle Cell Foundation. Thanks for coming on Health Options. Mahalin Shehu.
Thank you very much, Haji Arabi.
It's a pleasure. Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you join us.
Thank you very much.
Okay, without wasting much time, if you don't mind just telling us how old you are. How old are you?
Now I'm 56 years old.
56?
Yes.
Wow, I had to start on this
note of the age.
Yeah, on this
I know
note,
because
yes.
of the peculiarity.
Exactly.
And sometimes
and myths.
Yes, exactly. That's what myths.
Yeah.
About the fact that sickle cell warrior, they don't go beyond 18, they don't go beyond 21.
25 and all of that.
Which all these are myths really.
But thank God you're above 50 and
Yes.
even heading towards 60. Nice to know that. Yeah, nice to know. That's quite encouraging, I must say.
Yes.
So, share your story briefly.
Yep.
How has it been? I've had guests here. Some said they grew up outside the country. They grew up outside the country,
Yes.
where you had health facilities that met their needs and all of that.
Yes.
I don't know. Since you're so much interested in the affairs of the less privileged sufferers, let's start with how has your story been like? What is it like?
Well, for me, just like any other Nigerian child, in my family, we have 4 males that all of us are SS, that's sickle cell warriors. My mother had 4 of us, but as God will have it, only me survivor. One of us died in childhood. 3 of us survived to adulthood, but 2 of my brothers, one has 2 kids before he died. The other one was in his 3rd year in the university when he died. But thank God, I am here today. Growing up as a sickle cell patient in Kaduna then, just this normal up and down of crisis, hospital visits. I can say, if I have to count it, from when I was discovered to be a sickle cell warrior at the age of 10 to maybe when I was 50, I must have been in the hospital more than 200 times on admission. That's the reality. If I was going to school, I school in the south, and there's this myths that sickle cell, they are abiku, they are ogbanje, all this type of stigmatization. We have it, and people look at you as if you are less human. But for me, I have something that works for me, and that is the family. I have the family support. In all fairness, my family were a great support to me. My parents, my uncle, and the wife that I stay with in Ibadan, they are very supportive for me.
Wow.
This has been the story. And when by the time I get to the university, friends were there also to support. And I have access to health care. I must confess, I have access to health
It's
care.
really good to know that, you
Yes.
know, this perspective that we're looking at is quite interesting. Mental health, psychological, psychosocial factors and all of that, which you are really, really interested in and you're pushing, which, is the reason you are here. People who don't even, who are not suffering from any form of disease, are, battling with mental health as we speak. And you are looking at that as it concerns sickle cell sufferers. Let us into it and just exactly what you have done or doing.
Yes.
Or what is your foundation?
Yes, the issue of mental health is one thing that sometimes we overlook for sickle cell warriors, because the emphasis is always on the physical pain that we are going through. But not the fact is that we still have many of us going through mental health issues, depression, and all what. Even some of our caregivers. Imagine a woman, the husband just abandoned her because she gave birth to sickle cell warrior. How will the woman feel? The child,
which was not fault of hers, because it takes you to tango. It's AS and AS coming together that produce
but the man will just abandon the woman. The woman will go through raised stress and mental issue. Imagine a situation in which you have your child or children on admission, and you just fall into depression at that period, and you have to be admitted. So you can just imagine how it will feel for the woman. So that's why we thought this issue of mental health should also be brought into the front burner, that look, we are not only suffering from the physical pain, the mental pain is there for us. And our foundation, one of the things we look, let us bring people that are experts in mental health management to talk to us about this. Many of us that are warriors, many times we fall into the situation of depression, and you feel that's why you even existing. And because of the pains you go through, because you don't have enough support, how do you get out of this? You need experts in the field of counseling to take us through. That's why we at Some Sickle Cell Foundation, we believe that we need to address this issue, and it's one of the things we are looking at. Incidentally, we're even having a dialogue on that, which will be having many experts to talk on this issue, mental health, and other issues that concerns us.
Okay. What are those critical areas that you think remain huge gaps that really need to be closed when it comes to, interventions for sufferers in this part of the world?
One, I would say equal access to whatever other people are having access to, like job. Imagine a situation you struggle to come out of the university with a good grade. You went for an interview, they ask you all the questions, you excel. Now you feel that because you don't want to hide any information about you, you mention that to them that, look, this is my genotype.
I'm an SS.
Yes, you are SS. And because of that, they just shut you off. How will you feel? Many of us, yes, I'm in many forum of sickle cell forum, that this is the experience that people will tell you. I have a friend, of course, I have so many of them that I've not even met her face to face, but she was telling me her whole story. She's a physiotherapist. You cannot imagine, someone that is a health worker. Now she wants to go for her internship. The hospital are refusing to take her because she's SS.
Wow, that's
If
ridiculous.
a hospital will refuse, and
A
the people,
hospital?
yes, because she's SS. If the people doing the refusal are health worker like her, the people that are supposed to show understanding.
Yes.
So what are we saying? What are we saying about the larger society? If an hospital will say no to a sickle cell patient, that is a qualified physiotherapist. So
those are the issues that revolve around mental health and all of that.
exactly. So
And
like someone like that, how will she feel? She feel dejected, rejected by the society.
Yes.
And if you are not careful, people like that are susceptible to drug abuse. If
even suicidal
exactly.
decision
So
and all of that.
these are the things that we feel ought to be addressed by the authorities. There should be equal opportunities for us. We are not saying that, look, because we are SS, give us special treatment, that for job we are not qualified or joint, but at least still give us the opportunity. In my book, which you have read, I always mention that's how I got opportunity where I worked. I worked for about 18 years with Media Trust, Daily Trust newspapers, and I got to level general manager at Daily Trust. And it's because they gave me the opportunity. I remember during the interview in Kaduna, when the paper was saying Kaduna, I told the panel of that, two of them, that's the Malaka Bureau and the Alaja Jibola. Look, I told them, look, I'm SS. And because of that, they didn't say they are not going to take me. They took me. And I proved myself, rising to the position of a general manager. Of course, by then, I already qualified as a chartered accountant. And they know the performance at the interview was there. And so this is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They gave me that opportunity. If they too have looked at me, oh, we can't take SS.
Maybe your story would have been different today.
Different.
Yeah.
So this is what anywhere I have the opportunity, I always look, give us that opportunity. Let us prove ourselves. Even when we get there and we didn't perform, let the system you have in your organization that weeds out
play their own role, in terms of support.
Yes,
because that's the inclusion we're talking about, leaving no one behind.
Exactly.
So I know that there are some factors because that trigger crisis. Yes. Just when you got here, the guest room was quite cold.
And yes.
I had to switch off the AC, and back here in the studio, it was extremely cold. We had to wait for it to warm up a bit, before you could come in. Yes. Can you share with us some other, triggers, there's some do's and don'ts that sickle cell sufferers should, take into consideration? Because that's my next segment, but I want you to kickstart it, to set the tone for it.
Okay. But generally, we try to avoid extreme weather, too cold situation, too hot. Okay. We try to avoid it because this thing can trigger our crisis. Our lifestyle is very important. I can't say because, Rabi is my friend and sorry, she's the partying type. I have to join her all-night party. I can't do that because I know the stress may trigger me. I remember when I was in the university, my friends, show, let's go to this show now. Just go, and at least for you to know that you have been there. Now look, if I go to a show for one night,
asking you to socialize.
Exactly. Then I now spend the next 1 week in the hospital. For us, we must know that some lifestyle are not just for us. Alcohol, smoking, all these things are not for us.
Wow, you're even an expert already. So maybe just save the rest for the expert that would tell Nigerians more on what, especially now that we're in the Harmattan season. We know that dryness could trigger a whole lot of,
the period that one of the period I always care of, really.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Shehu Olaitan Mohammed, for coming on Health Options. It's our pleasure having you, and I hope you keep up the good work by helping citizens, especially the less privileged among sickle cell sufferers in the country.
Thank you very much. Okay. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's get more tips on ways sickle cell sufferers could go through Harmattan rather than going under it.
The red blood cell is the main structural organelle in our body that carries, oxygen. The typical shape for a red blood cell is what we call concave. It is concave in shape. With that kind of shape, it is kind of flat and has a large volume to carry a high capacity of oxygen. However, due to genetic malformation of the red blood cells, it takes the shape of a sickle. I think you know what a sickle is. Like the shape of a sickle, put in simple word, is like a question mark sign. That is sickle shape. So with this kind of shape, you see that the volume is, the structure is abnormal. The volume has, reduced in terms of oxygen carrying capacity. So when there is oxygen deficiency of, oxygen, or what we call hypoxia. In other words, you can also say that sickle cell is a hypoxic disease. That is, say that the body lacks the ability to carry enough oxygen. That is why you have all the different signs and crises that comes with it. Genetically, you want to look at it this way. You have two forms of DNA, that is the deoxyribonucleic acid, formation. You have what we call the SS, that is the full-blown sickle cell. There had been a genetic malformation of the red blood cells, especially the part of the red blood cells that is known as hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is the pigment that carries, oxygen in the red blood cells. And if the shape isn't right, then it is not able to carry. So I'm going to be emphasizing on cellular hydration. It is very, very important, especially for this time of the year.
Director General, Inland Revenue Board of Malaysia and Chairman of Qatar, Mr. Datuk Mohammed Nizam Sairi. I welcome you. His Excellency, the Deputy High Commissioner, the British High Commissioner to Nigeria, His Excellency Ben Lewin Jones, OBE, is also here with us. You're welcome. And so, Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me also welcome here Mr. Kashifu Inua Abdullahi, Director General of NIDA, that is here with us. I welcome you. And then the Executive Director of Qatar, the man under whose administrative umbrella we are all here gathered, a very wonderful person, Mr. Duncan Oniduru, is also here. There's a language in Yoruba land here. When you say Oniduru, Yoruba says Oniduro, and Oniduro means the person that stands by you. Yeah? And you stand by tax people in Africa. And but the people that pay tax will not love you. So, Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 42nd Annual Technical Conference of the Commonwealth Association of Tax Administrators. Let me welcome all our participants from Gambia, Zambia, South Africa, Ghana, Mauritius, Uganda, Malta, Rwanda, Ethiopia, Kenya, Malawi, Eswatini, Malaysia, Kenya, and I have in-laws in Kenya now, India, United Kingdom, Rwanda, and the host country, Nigeria. So it's my pleasure to welcome all of you. This is Abuja. It is our center of unity and our seat of power. The focus of this year will be, how does the digital era affect tax administration? And we all know that the digital age, or better known as the information age, is the evolution of technology in daily and organizational life. The modernization of information and communication process has become the driving force for social and economic evolution. So it is the very definition of contemporary human civilization. So what effect will this gigabyte-infected generation have on tax administration? And that will be the focus in the next 3 days. So without much ado, let me welcome my Kenyan brother, but has taken UK to be home. That is why he's not dressed like me. I'd like to welcome Mr. Duncan Onidoro.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, the Master of Ceremony, for the kind introduction. The Secretary of the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, the Honorable Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Hijia Zainab Shamsuna Ahmed, the Chairman of the Commonwealth Association of Tax Administrators, Datuk Mohamed Nizam Sairi, who is the CEO of the Inland Revenue Board of Malaysia, the Vice Chairman of the Commonwealth Association of Tax Administrators, John Swadlow, ably represented here by His Excellency, the Deputy High Commissioner to Nigeria, Sir Jill Atkinson, the former Executive Chairman of the FIRS and Managing Partner Compliance Professional, PLC, Mr. Efeko Okauru. I'm told she's joining us later. She's not with us here. The chairperson, director generals, and commissioner generals of the tax authorities here present, heads of delegation, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. It is a great honor and privilege to address you at the 42nd Technical Conference, which is the first major event we are holding in person since 2020. So on my own behalf and on behalf of the Carter Secretariat, I extend a warm welcome to all the delegates, including those who are joining us today virtually. That Nigeria is hosting this event soon after coming out of COVID-19 lockdown is not a surprise. Nigeria is a founder member of the Commonwealth Association of Tax Administrators, having joined this organization in 1978. And over the years, Nigeria has actively participated in the affairs of the organization, including serving in the management committee of Carter for many years and currently holding the presidency of the organization. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, in the last decade, countries have embarked on a number of tax policy and administration reforms aimed at ensuring that they continue to mobilize tax revenue in an efficient and effective way. Part of the reform initiative have been to create semi-autonomous integrated revenue authorities, bringing clustered tax-related functions under one roof. But I must hasten to add that though numerous challenges remain, we are confident that revenue agencies will overcome them and afford both their government and their citizens a more efficient service and sustainable revenue flows. Ladies and gentlemen, this conference affords our tax official and their ministry colleagues an opportunity to learn from their other colleagues from other Commonwealth tax administrations. I'm aware that to a large extent, the Commonwealth countries have traditionally shared common values and ideals. Opportunities like these do not come very often, and I implore this gathering of experts in the field of taxation to openly discuss common issues so that our officers can learn extensively from your experiences. Over the years, ladies and gentlemen, Carter membership has afforded our countries various opportunities. These include training and development of our tax administrators, benchmarking our tax policies and practices against other more developed Commonwealth tax administration, and having access to unfettered expertise advice from other tax jurisdictions at reduced or no cost. On this note, ladies and gentlemen, I must single out for special mention and recognition member countries who have been at the forefront of providing capacity building resources for other member countries. The immense support from the UK, His Majesty Revenue and Custom, has played an invaluable part in enhancing our outreach programs. The government of Malaysia, through the Inland Revenue Board of Malaysia, has been very consistent in hosting our annual international tax workshop. The work being done by Australia Tax Office and the New Zealand Inland Revenue in support of CATA members in the Pacific region has been very impactful and result-oriented. India has often availed their campus in Nagpur for the CATA event, and our member country, Canada, has availed a very robust platform for sharing knowledge, the knowledge sharing platform. Now, we still need more members to contribute to such noble initiative and supplement the great contribution being made by the countries I've mentioned. Ladies and gentlemen, we also place great importance on the partnership with other intra-continental tax organizations because of the value that we see in creating sustainable solutions to common problems within our context. We value greatly the experience of our more developed sister countries. However, we also recognize that countries have unique issues that require tailored solutions. It is in this spirit, therefore, that CATA finds it fit to work closely with international organizations in the area of tax administration and tax policy, most of whom are represented here today. We look forward to greater interaction with the global community, and we do acknowledge the recent UN resolution to enhance its mandate in the area of tax policy. Ladies and gentlemen, I understand many of our delegates are high-level tax officials and practitioners. Tax is not an easy topic to comprehend, and I would be less than candid if I said that the mere mention of the word tax doesn't send shivers down even the most hardened of people. Unfortunately, the tax landscape is not getting any smoother. One of the recurring recommendations has been for countries to simplify their tax system. While we agreed with the need to ensure that the average man on the street or the average woman in the street can understand the legislation, we must also accept that the way modern business is undertaken creates a challenge on the legislation to keep up with it. As a result, simplification of tax legislation is not currently as easy as we would have envisaged. We therefore need to strike a balance between the need to ensure robust legislation that covers both the current global economic environment, but also lends itself to ease of understanding to the average man and woman on the street. Conferences such as this one avails you tax practitioners an incredible opportunity to share with each other your varied and wide experiences in the field and develop new perspectives. Ladies and gentlemen, in addressing the issue of tax simplification in terms of rules, procedures, and regulation, some key questions that we need to place at the back of our minds. And some of these key questions are the rules, their purposes, and their consequences easy to understand and predict? Do they add more complexity when taken in aggregate with the immediate and wider existing rules? Secondly, are the rules and their administration taking advantage of modern development, including technology? And can technology help us manage the complexity without undermining informed choices of our taxpayers? And is this technology available for the majority? And how are the digitally excluded or the digitally challenged are served? And we should also ask ourselves, can taxpayers be better supported? Are there ways intermediaries can take some of the burden away from taxpayers in reporting and payment requirement? And are the tax advisors enabled to help their client manage their tax affairs, including through access to taxpayer data held by the tax administration? These are some of the key questions which should guide us even as we tailor-make our legislation in this era of digitalization. Ladies and gentlemen, the various international developments in the tax landscape are issues which should command the attention of all of us as tax administrators. While we as CATA may not be able to project a common view owing to the diversity of our membership, what we have done and continue to do is to provide a platform for robust engagement and discussion on some of these issues. To this end, we have helped organize various regional consultative meetings supported by the OECD and our partner regional tax organization. Whatever we make out of the current discourse going out there internationally, the stark reality is that a country cannot protect its tax base by its own self, and hence the need for a collaborative approach. And a word of caution, don't let somebody else collect your taxes, because we are told if you don't collect it in your jurisdiction, somebody else will collect it. That should not happen. Ladies and gentlemen, COVID-19 has weakened our economies and exacerbated our vulnerabilities. The latest OECD published Economic Outlook 2022 indicates that the global economy is projected to grow well below the outcomes expected before the Ukraine war, just at a modest 3.1% this year, before slowing down to 2.2% in 2023 and registering a modest recovery to 2.7% in 2024. That should tell you where we are. Majority of the Commonwealth countries are emerging economies with tax administration grappling with varied challenges. The small island developing states, for example, have been disproportionately exposed to the myriad of global crises in the recent past. The traditional sources, such as revenue from financial services, for those who are hosting financial service centers, are facing additional scrutiny and may as well be facing onerous fate under the current dispensation, where increased reporting requirements are needed. It is true that some countries are presently struggling to implement some of these standards on transparency just to shake off the perception of being considered as tax haven, where unscrupulous individuals and entities run their tax evasion scheme. Besides, ladies and gentlemen, several countries have put in place various tax incentive regimes in order to enhance their competitiveness for the foreign direct investment. These are very well-intentioned policy instruments, but in the ongoing international tax discourse, the measures may run afoul of the anti-tax competition rules currently being formulated under the OECD Inclusive Framework Arrangement. The ever-changing international tax landscape calls for sustainability and resilience in tax administration. This resilience has been aptly demonstrated during the COVID pandemic, where tax administration instituted far-reaching interventions that ensured that the adverse effects of the pandemic were mitigated to the best extent possible. Although these measures were largely emergencies, some countries have extended them into the post-pandemic period, and perhaps some of the measures will remain permanent features in our tax legislation and processes in the years to come. But ladies and gentlemen, it is high time that countries review their COVID intervention tax measures and evaluate how effective they have been. Such reviews may provide valuable signposts of reference on lessons learned should we face a similar catastrophe in future. One key lesson is the convergence and similarity of issues faced by the tax administration. And evidence shows that countries which had a higher trust with their taxpayers fared well during the pandemic and made quick recoveries. Those suffering trust deficits are still struggling up to date to plug the revenue gap. So it's a wake-up call in terms of enhancing the trust that we have between us and our taxpayers. At this conference, ladies and gentlemen, we've assembled a range of experts who will be facilitating discussion on the two topics selected. Among these are seasoned tax administrators, tax practitioners, academicians, and industry experts. It is rare that such a rich mixture is brought under one roof in a single event, and I would encourage all of us to use this opportunity to engage fully in the deliberation taking place in the next 4 days. And as usual, your feedback would be of great importance to us. I thank you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Duncan Onduru. Thank you. Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome here the Honorable Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Dr. Mrs. Zainab Shamsuna Ahmed. I welcome you. And also here with us is the Chairman, West African Tax Administration Forum, and Commissioner General, Gambia Revenue Authority, Mr. Yankuba Dabo. Our next speaker here is a very experienced diplomat. He has served virtually all over the world, but we are very happy he's in Nigeria now. And because he's virtually all over the world and understands the tax administration in most of the countries, he understands that taxation is the price which civilized societies pay for the opportunity to remain civilized. And so it's my pleasure to welcome here the Deputy High Commissioner, the British Deputy High Commissioner to Nigeria, His Excellency Ben Llewellyn-Jones, OBE. Your Excellency, I welcome you to the microphone.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, may I stand on all existing protocols. My name is Ben Llewellyn-Jones. I'm the British Deputy High Commissioner in Lagos. Unlike so many people in this room, I am not a tax expert, but I pay tax. Thank you. I'm also a loyal subject of the Crown, so I pay my tax to Her Majesty's or His Majesty's Revenue and Customs. And to show you how loyal our tax paying is, a small anecdote. My father-in-law, who is a very, very loyal taxpayer, received a tax rebate from His Majesty's Revenue and Customs. So he rang the helpline to say, I'm not sure you should be paying me this. So they checked and rang him back and said, you're right, you owe us money. So he checked and he rang them back and said, are you sure? They said, it's twice as much now. He said, do you have any advice for me? They said, you should probably stop calling. And I'm sure all of us are as loyal. And I'm very, very, very pleased to express, on behalf of the United Kingdom's delegation, our gratitude to our Nigerian hosts for generously agreeing to hold SATA's 42nd technical conference in Abuja. And I wish to convey personal apologies from John Swerdlow, SATA Vice Chairman, but who will join us virtually from London. The theme of this conference, tax administration in the digital era, is very, very relevant. We all recognise the opportunities and challenges that digitalisation brings to our countries, our governments, to businesses and to us as individuals. The pace of change has been further accelerated by the COVID-19 pandemic, including not only a shift to working digitally, but also leading to a change in the perceptions of how we do business and interact with each other. There is an increasing expectation that government and business services operate seamlessly online, across borders, and are available at any time. The importance of technology and innovation was highlighted in this year's communiqué from the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Rwanda, with the renewed commitment to the 2018 Commonwealth Cyber Declaration, and indeed acknowledgement of its continued importance to delivery of the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. Digitalisation can make a powerful contribution to the economic, social, cultural, and indeed political life of the Commonwealth. It can promote investment, trade in goods and services, the free flow of information, innovation, and indeed fair competition. Of course, as well as opportunities, digitalisation also brings with it new dangers, new challenges, and we all have a shared interest in protecting the security of our networks, our data, and our services. Tax authorities have their own roles to play in ensuring that the opportunities and benefits of technology and digitalisation are used to promote economic growth for all. Rapid developments in technology mean taxpayers are increasingly expecting digitalised tax services, while the volume and complexity of data flows increase considerably. There are therefore considerable opportunities for increasing the effectiveness and efficiency of tax collection needed to fund our public services, whilst reducing the complexity and administrative burden and expense for taxpayers. This includes considering how digitalisation can help us address common challenges such as compliance in the informal sector. Meanwhile, administrations are grappling with the skills and resource shortages. The shift to remote working, catalysed by the pandemic, prevents Qatar members with opportunities to attract a wider pool of potential employees and to reduce costs. On the other hand, adapting to rapid technological changes is costly and risks being outpaced by new developments, and cybersecurity is an increasingly important consideration. This conference is therefore a valuable forum for sharing experiences, insights, best practice, and current challenges across a range of issues related to digitalisation. We can look forward to sessions from experts within our tax departments, NGOs, academics, and private sector practitioners, as well as the unique chance to discuss what we are hearing with our colleagues from across the Commonwealth. And above all, we shall encourage people to pay tax, not least my father-in-law. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. I hope the taxes these professionals collect will have been as short as your speech. All of us will have been happy. Let's put our hands together for him, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Let me quickly inform you that this event is live on Nigeria's premium television station, NTA. It is streamed live on all social media platforms. And we have all our delegates from 47 countries of Qatar that are also joined via Zoom. So it is global, what we are doing right here in Abuja. Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, for those romantics, the poets, and those that love to live in the world of the ideal, they will tell you that the best things in life are free. But tax people will now come in and say, sooner or later, those things will be taxed. Our next speaker knows that nothing is free if you need to run a government. He is the Chief Executive Officer and Director General, Inland Revenue Board of Malaysia, and Chairman of Qatar, Mr. Dr. Mohammed Nizam Stairi is here with us. Welcome.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Mr. Boss Mustafa, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mrs. Zainab Shamsuna Ahmed, Honorable Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Mr. Muhammad Nami, President of Qatar and Executive Chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service of Nigeria, Mr. John Swerdlow, International Relations Specialist, HMRC, and Vice Chairman of Qatar, represented by His Excellency Mr. Ben Llewellyn-Jones, the Deputy British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Mr. Duncan Onduru, Executive Director of Qatar, members of the Qatar Management Committee, Qatar Secretariat, delegates of the 42nd Qatar Annual Technical Conference 2022, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and welcome to Abuja, Nigeria. It is indeed good to see the majority of Qatar members present at this 42nd Qatar Annual Technical Conference after a long spell of COVID-19, which made international travel next to impossible. I am certain many will concur that meeting in a physical setting and a face-to-face interaction is very much welcome to renew acquaintances and forge new networking at this renowned conference. I also take this opportunity to welcome members logging on through the online platform. Congratulations to the hosts for making this option available so as not to deprive members of Qatar the avenue to participate in this conference. As this is our first technical conference in almost 3 years, the last being in Malaysia in 2019, I would like to convey in person my gratitude and appreciation to the Qatar Management Committee for appointing Malaysia as the chairman of Qatar for the 2021-2024 term during the MCM meeting on 12 November of 2021. I look forward to your continued support in making Qatar stand tall among tax administrations as we work collectively to build this organization. Ladies and gentlemen, the 42nd Technical Conference is a long-standing tradition of Qatar in uniting member countries from across the globe as we share our knowledge, ideas, and best practices for the mutual benefit of member countries. I believe that it is through this sharing and learning that we are able to expedite tax administration reforms in our country, as we already have role models to which we can benchmark on. For this opportunity to once again meet and deliberate as a united family, I must express my heartiest appreciation to Mr. Muhammad Nami, Executive Chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service of Nigeria, and the Government of Nigeria for graciously accepting to host this year's conference in their beautiful country. Having just finished hosting Sagata in October last month in Kuala Lumpur, and also the last Qatar Technical Conference in Malaysia 2019, I am fully aware of the time, planning, effort, and energy that is required to coordinate and execute a conference of such scale. Please join me, ladies and gentlemen, in giving a big round of applause to our host, Nigeria, and the Qatar Secretariat for dedication and commitment that has made this conference materialize today. In spite of our ongoing battle from the after effects of the pandemic, it is therefore no small feat for each and every one of us for being here in Abuja in ensuring the success of the 42nd edition of the conference, collectively as the voice of Qatar. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme for this year's conference, Tax Administration in the Digital Era, is a timely reminder for us to re-engineer our tax processes to fit the digitalization era. The health crisis, which took the world off guard in the late 2019 and early 2020, is a stark reminder that in order to remain relevant as tax authorities, we must relook at the way we do our business. With limited interactions during the onset of COVID-19, the pandemic pushed us to revisit the way we interacted with our clients, the taxpayers. As agencies entrusted to safeguard the coffers of our respective nations, it was never an option for us to close shop. Therefore, we had to innovate and to innovate fast. We could no longer deny the importance of technology. Online services had to be streamlined, help centers had to be upgraded, and new ways of communications, for instance, using artificial intelligence as the chat function, had to be put in place. As we slowly recover from the pandemic and return to a new normal way of life, I believe we all agree the changes brought about by digitalization are here to stay. And if we are to remain relevant, we must embrace these changes and leverage on them as we continue to reform agenda of our respective tax administration. Aside from work processes, digitalization also opens a whole new set of opportunities in broadening the tax base of the country. With digitalization in place, nations will be better able to plug leakages, especially those caused by the informal sectors, the shadow economy, as well as sharing and gig economy. The tried and tested method of yesteryears no longer hold water, and we must explore new ways of bringing these informal activities into the tax net as we seek to be equitable and fair in our implementation of the tax laws. We must be seen to be fair to compliant taxpayers by taking action on those who fail to carry out their tax duties. And digitalization can be one such mode to expedite this notion of building a fair and equitable tax system. We must also come together to address international issues of common concerns, such as the taxation of the digital economy, which has taken center stage at international discussions. The end result will be to ensure we are able to collect the right amount of revenue as entrusted upon us as tax administrators. Therefore, I urge all delegates of the 42nd Qatar Technical Conference to share and learn from each other over the next 4 days as we deliberate on the topics laid out for this year's conference. Ladies and gentlemen, before I conclude, allow me to once again thank the Federal Inland Revenue Service of Nigeria and the Government of Nigeria for hosting us this year. Thank you to the Qatar Secretariat for your unwavering commitment to get us all here in Abuja, Nigeria. And last but not least, thank you to all delegates, without whom this conference would not have been possible. To everyone, have a pleasant stay in Nigeria, and I wish you a fruitful and enriching experience throughout the 42nd Qatar Annual Technical Conference. Thank you.
The way the chairman welcomed everybody to Nigeria, I'm tempted to look for Nigerian names for you. You're welcome. Thank you very much. Let's put our hands together for him, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is a well-trained tax, accounting, and management professional with highly rated qualifications and professional practicing licenses from relevant professional bodies. He has over 3 decades of practical working experience in banking, auditing, tax management, and advisory. And he has done amazingly well at the Federal Inland Revenue Service. As at the last figure, he has already hit 7.5 trillion, and he says the journey just started. Please join us and welcome here the Executive Chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service of Nigeria and President of Qatar. Please join us and welcome Mr. Mohammed Maman Nami.
The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, my supervisor, the Honorable Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Haja Zainab Shamsuna Ahmed, the Chairman of Commonwealth Association of Tax Administrators, my namesake, Datuk Muhammad, who is also the CEO and Director General of the Malaysian Inland Revenue Board. The Vice Chairman of Commonwealth, ably represented by Ben Llewellyn Jones, the Executive Director of Commonwealth Association of Tax Administration, Mr. Duka Unduru, the former Executive Chairman of the FRS, and Managing Partner, Compliance Professionals PLC, Mrs. Ifeiko Karu, the Director General of NITDA, the board members of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, members of the Tax Advisory Committee, and members of the Joint Tax Boards, chairpersons, Director Generals, and Commissioner Generals of tax authorities across Commonwealth countries here present, and those that have joined us virtually, heads of delegations, invited guests, members of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure and honor to welcome you all to the 42nd Technical Conference of the Commonwealth Association of Tax Administrators, CATA. The conference brings together tax administrators, practitioners, and the whole of the global tax fraternity to provide solutions to contemporary tax issues. Today, I'm welcoming you in a dual capacity. First, as your host, and second, as your president. To begin with, permit me to thank the entire Qatar family for unanimously electing me last year as president. My election is more than personal honor to me. It is honor to the government and people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. In recent times, there has been an upsurge of disruptive technology innovations in the business environment. These have triggered peculiar issues that tax authorities are grappling with. The business world is in a state of flux. Consequently, while the character of data and its management keep changing. Consequently, tax administrators are under compulsion to align their mandates with the changes arising from technological advancements. In diverse ways, all members of CATA have to deal with the challenges that transformational technology has brought to the commercial space and stay ahead of the conversation. As revenue authorities with common political history, the questions then are, how are we faring? What lessons can we learn from each other? It is for this reason that this year's conference has the theme, Tax Administration in Digital Era. The team has 5 sub-themes to enrich the discussion.
NTA, you can't beat the rich.
NTA Tuesday Live, analytical, in-depth, educative, and interactive on national issues, accommodating all sides of opinions.
We as a people have understood that we have to fight corruption before it fights us back.
Poverty has a financial index, so it should be fought also with a financial weapon. Give it to the Social Investments Program. It has been a very courageous battle.
Tuesday Live, every Tuesday at 10:30 p.m. Join us.
From dusk to dawn, 24 hours a day, NTA International is with you in your living room, office, everywhere and anywhere. We provide the company you desire in terms of balanced and up-to-date news, programs, and the best of entertainment. Tune in to DSTV Channel 251, GoTV Channel 91, Preview UK Channel 26.
Achieve the short and long-term goals of the association. While the COVID-19 pandemic imposed several limitations of the association's ability to deliver on its objectives in 2020 and 2021, significant progress was made in 2022 on a number of fronts. At the secretariat level, the strategic plan for 2022 and 2025 was developed and approved by the management committee, and a work plan was also developed. At the center is the core objective of forging stronger and more beneficial partnership with critical stakeholders across the globe. At the political level, the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting was held in Rwanda, during which Togo and Gabon were admitted as the new members of Commonwealth. Consequently, the President will be sending invitations to the tax administrations of those countries to also join Qatar, which means that new members are to be admitted soon. I believe that the strength of our association will be further reinforced with the addition of these two countries. On international partnership, Qatar, having realized that we have come this far through partnership, collaboration, and engagement, and in line with one of the major objectives I set out for my tenure, which is to expand the scope of our collaboration for improved tax administration, I'm glad to inform you that Qatar has been admitted as a partner to the African Tax Transparency Initiative and the Asia Pacific Tax Transparency Initiative. We believe that these programs will further assist our member countries in the implementation of global tax transparency and reporting requirement that facilitates the exchange of information between jurisdictions. Number two, Qatar also joined the Asia Pacific Tax Hub. This hub, supported by the Asia Development Bank, has been crucial in strengthening domestic revenue mobilization and international tax cooperation for its members. With this membership, we believe that we would experience more capacity development for countries of that region and ultimately improve revenue mobilization for those countries. Three, the African Tax Administration Forum, ATAF, has been a friend of Qatar. Over the years, the two organizations have worked together on some basis that we can equally call ad hoc basis in order to forge a stronger and more strategic partnership. Qatar and ATAF will sign a memorandum of understanding at the margins of this conference. The MOU will seek to provide more opportunities for capacity building programs for Qatar members of African continent, ongoing base erosion and profit shifting reforms. In order to assist members in engaging actively in the ongoing discourse around digital economy taxation, Qatar partnered with a number of regional tax organizations to organize consultative meetings, workshops facilitated by OECD. Such meetings were held in collaboration with the Pacific Island Tax Administration Association, Inter-European Association of Tax Administrations, Association of Tax Administrations in Islamic countries, Caribbean Organization of Tax Administrators, and the Study Group of Asia Tax and Research Tax Body. Other partnership initiatives were undertaken with ETAF, WATAF, and SEAD under the umbrella of Network of Tax Organizations. We must understand that the road ahead is still long, steep, and doubting. Our challenges only get tougher as we forge ahead because technology is transforming daily, and the trends are novel and uncharted. As tax administrators of Commonwealth heritage, it is fair to assume that our challenges in this regard would have similar identities and similar solutions. It is imperative that we take advantage of the occasion of this conference to share and discuss with one another the challenges we face and the solutions we are providing. This conference will be an avenue to improve our individual capacities as tax authorities, as well as our collective strength as a body. Finally, I invite you to look forward to an exciting time of learning, the experience sharing, and networking while enjoying the hospitality of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Abuja is one of the Africa's most beautiful cities. It is boisterous and sophisticated. It is host to magnificent edifices, a hub of diverse cultures that originated from different parts of the country and beyond. You will find the people very friendly and hospitable. So I enjoy you to make the most of this week, just to soak it all in. Welcome home. For home is what Abuja is to all of us. Thank you very much.
I think he has hit the point. Abuja is a commonwealth of fun sports. So if you want to go to anywhere, we will take you there. And you have very good stories to say. By the time you go back to your country, the grace in your tongue will not be able to rest. Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker believes that taxes are the lifeblood of government. And the only way government can remain in governance is to make sure that nobody escapes. She is the Honorable Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning. It's my pleasure to welcome here Dr. Mrs. Zainab Shamsuna Ahmed.
Good morning, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. While the MC is still thinking of a name to give to the chairman of CARTA, I want to join the chairman of the FRS and the president of CARTA to welcome you all to your second home, the beautiful city of Abuja. But first, let me pay my respects to the Secretary of the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa.
This is the network service of the NTA. For another live broadcast. This broadcast will be continued later.
Abajilai Mohammed, Honorable Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Dr. Muhammad Mahmoud Abubakar, the Permanent Secretary, Federal Minister of Agri and Rural Development, Dr. Ernest Umakie, essays to Mr. President attached to the Office of the Honorable Minister of Information and Culture, Chief Executive Officers, DGs of parastatals and agencies under the Ministries of Agriculture, Information and Culture, directors of both ministries that are present here today, editors, bureau chiefs, other ladies and gentlemen of the media, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I want to formally welcome you all to the 5th edition of our series, PMB Administration Scorecard 2015 to 2023. This engagement is to showcase the success stories and the achievements of the present administration. This is the 5th edition. In the first edition, we featured the Honorable Minister of Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Raji Fashola, SAN. In the second edition, the Transportation Minister, Muhazu Jaji Sambo, was here. The third edition featured the Aviation Minister, Senator Hadi Sirika. Just last week, we took the first edition and we featured the Honorable Minister of Interior, Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola. Today, we'll be featuring the Honorable Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Dr. Mohammed Mahmoud Abubakar. Very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, they said information is power. Correct information brings clear thinking
and clear thinking helps people to make sound judgment. I want to most sincerely welcome you. With the kind permission of the honorable ministers, let me just quickly recognize some few DGs that are here. From Federal Ministry of Agric and Rural Development, we have the Registrar and Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Institute of Soil Science, Professor Victor Chudi. I welcome you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you. We have with us the Director General and Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Television Authority, Malam Abdulhamid Salihu Dembos. I welcome you. Thank you so much for coming. We equally have with us the Director General and Chief Executive Officer of Nahuto, Malam Nura Soni Kangiwa. I welcome you. Executive Secretary, Nigerian Press Council is here, Mr. Francis Nwosu. I welcome you. The Director General NTDC, Chief Folorunso Koka, is represented by the Director of Special Duties, Chief Odi Anumba. I welcome you. Very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me just run you through very fast with this engagement, the way it goes. The Honorable Minister of Information and Culture, who is the Chief Moderator of this event, will give the opening remarks. The Honorable Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development will make a presentation. I will now move into the question and answer segment. Please, to the gentlemen of the media, when we get to the question and answer segment and you are recognized to speak, please, you tell us your name, the media organization you are representing, and please, kindly restrict your questions or your comments to the issues to be addressed by the Honorable Minister in his presentation. Please, we will appreciate, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the media, if you are decent enough in the use of language. I welcome the DG NOA, Dr. Garba Abari. Thank you so much for coming. Having said this, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to respectfully invite the Honorable Minister of Information and Culture to please give his opening remarks. Honorable Minister, sir.
The Honorable Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, my brother, Dr. Mohammed Mahmoud Abubakar, in absentia, the Honorable Minister of State Agric, Mustafa Babasheuri, Secretary, Ministry of Agriculture and Natural Resources, Dr. Ernest Mukwelwe, Special Assistance to the President on Media, 1 and 2 here present, Directors General and CEOs of agencies under the Ministries of Information, and directors from both ministries, bureau chiefs, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you all once again to the PM Administration Scorecard 2015-2023 series. This is the 5th edition of the series, which we launched in October to showcase the massive achievements of the Buhari administration. To date, we have had presentations from the Honorable Ministers of Works and Housing, Transportation, Aviation, as well as Interior. Today, the Honorable Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development will brief us on the achievements of his ministry. Please note that on Thursday, the 1st of December, inshallah, will be the turn of the Honorable Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment to brief us. Before today's presentation, please permit me to quickly make an announcement. It has come to the attention of the federal government that Nigerians travelers to the United States of America and some countries in Europe are having their belongings, especially their money and international passports, stolen at an increasingly alarming rate. The most recent victims of these are travelers to the UK, most of whom were dispossessed of their passports and money at highbrow shops, particularly in the high streets of Oxford. We have therefore decided to advise Nigerians traveling to Europe and the United States to take extra care and precaution to avoid being dispossessed of their belongings. This is not your typical travel advisory. It is not the business of the Ministry of Information and Culture to issue travel advisories. Issuing travel advisories is the prerogative of our embassies and high commissions, as well as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. This is merely a piece of advice to Nigerians who may be visiting the affected parts of the world. May I now call on the Honorable Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, my own brother, to please come and make his presentations, after which we will take questions from gentlemen of the press. Honorable, it's your turn, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Information and Culture, my brother, Lai Mohammed, the Permanent Secretary, Federal Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, DG NTA, DG NOA, and other DGs here, directors from the ministry, journalists from all the media houses, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Today, I will take you through what the Federal Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development has been able to achieve during the course of this last 7 years, or a little over 7 years of this administration. Let me start by saying that there has been really a paradigm shift in the agri space because of Mr. President's vision to redirect the trajectory, economic trajectory of this country by diversifying to the agricultural sector rather than to continue to depend on a mono economy of oil, especially with the climate change that is wreaking havoc globally. The Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, you can start moving the slide, but we start by saying we produce what we eat and eat what we produce. This is what Mr. President said. And we have been doing that. Starting with the mandate of the ministry, as you can see, is really to improve food production, nutrition, job creation, wealth creation, reduce poverty within the agri sector. Now, the agri sector really form the basis of any economy. You can't tell me there is one single developed country in the world that has not started with agricultural base, whether or not they have the land to produce. We have the Asian tigers, for example. Some of them do not have the land, but they made sure in one way or another they have food security, because food security is what? It's general security. Facilitation of rural socio-economic setting. Our mission. Can you please zoom a little bit? Looks like it's a little bit too far away. Oh, come back. Can you come back to the mission? What's going? There you are. Can you zoom on the mission? We have to set our mission, then get to the vision. Thank you. To manage the agricultural sector through multi-stakeholder engagement, to develop commodity value chains and promote agro-industrial development for ensuring food security and driving economic diversification needed for sustainable inclusive growth. Then our vision, what do we see, where do we see Nigeria in the future in terms of agri? To lead the development Nigerian agricultural sector to achieve a hunger and poverty-free nation, which is part of the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. Now, before moving, let me say the government also has the 9 priority areas, and agri is number 2. That is, achieve agriculture and food and nutrition security. That's where we are. Next slide, please. The ministry has achieved so much with the help and intervention of Mr. President because of his passion in agriculture. From 2015 to date, I will take you through to what we have done, starting with policies. Agri policies have started since the 60s. The current one, which is NATIP, is a synthesis of all these policies from the 60s all the way coming up until the last one of 2021, which is the promotion, agricultural promotion policy. Today we have the NATIP, that is the National Agricultural Technology and Innovation Policy 2022, to take us through to 2027, to guide the implementation of programs and projects to ensure food security, employment generation, and wealth creation in the country. Now, everything is digital these days. So we are practicing smart agriculture, and that's where the technology comes in. That is where the innovation comes in. You cannot continue to do business as usual. Starting with the fertilizer policy, the National Fertilizer Quality Control Policy 2019, which was launched on the 3rd of March 2020 to ensure that we have good quality fertilizers in the country. Because we always say, you reap what you sow. If you sow bad seed or apply bad fertilizer, you will definitely cultivate, harvest bad product or produce. Next slide, please. Keep going. Along the policies, we have our research institute, and also we have focus in research and innovation, and we have the Agricultural Research Institute Council of Nigeria, ARCN. Just last year, also there was an amendment law to strengthen the institution. The ministry has 16 research institutions and 16 colleges of agriculture. Together, they work to make sure that we continue to research on how to increase and improve in agricultural production. And also, just last week, we launched the National Animal Identification and Traceability System, NAIT, to facilitate animal traceability. This is a policy that has been in the waiting for a long time, but because we have to continue to improve, we make sure that any sector of the agri, whether it's cropping, whether it's livestock, fisheries, have the policies, the framework that are needed to drive that particular subsector. So that's the one that we just launched last week. And then also there is just recently from the National Economic Council, the introduction of nutrition department, particularly in this ministry, but also we identified other relevant ministries that will be included in that to have nutrition department. Having food is one thing, but having a balanced diet is another. So next slide. Policies continue. Mr. President launched the special agro-industrial processing zone last month. This is really a game changer. The SAPZ, for short, will not only ensure food and nutrition security, but also will create millions of jobs, will create wealth, reduce poverty, will also promote industrialization. What we are going to do with the SAPZ is to have industrial cities, if you will, where in one SAPZ, you will have the industries, you will have hospitals, you will even have schools, you will have residences. Around the SAPZ will be clusters of smallholder farmers especially that will be able to bring in their produce into the processing zone. So it's like one-stop shopping center. This is something that will really change the face of agro industry in the country. The green imperatives. We cannot definitely live with a population of 200 million Nigerians growing at a rate of 3.5 to continue to be farming in a rudimentary manner. So the Green Imperatives is a project that started about 4 years ago. We are able, by the grace of God and the help of Mr. President, to come to the end of it. We were in Brazil about 6 weeks ago, and the whole objective, 10,000 tractors, the ratio of farmers to tractor in this country is really low. And this is not the only project that has to do with mechanization or tractorization. We are working with other partners internationally and nationally. In fact, in the next couple of weeks, we'll be launching some kind of tractor cell where it will be a PPP arrangement, farmers and the government, and of course, the financial institutions, specifically our Bank of Agriculture. Next. Pull it back a little. The gender, national gender policy. Climate change is a phenomenon that affects everyone. But women bear the brunt the most. And women are the ones that are part of, a bigger segment of women consist of the smallholder farmers. 70% of our food is being produced by the smallholder farmers. And of the smallholder farmers, 70% are women. So we have to take women into consideration, starting with policy design, development, implementation. We make sure in this policy, women are carried along right from the beginning so that it will be an all-inclusive agricultural transformation for this country. We also launched the animal disease control. This was approved by the Federal Executive Council about 3 to 4 weeks ago is revised disease control. Of course, we had one before. Again, is all to make sure that the ministry is on top of things when it comes to animal disease control. Why? Because of the new policy of the One Health, we realize that there are a lot of zoonotic diseases that can go from animals to humans. A case in point is the current COVID. I said current because we still have pockets of COVID. So we must make sure that animals' health is being well taken care of, as it has direct relation with that of humans. Next slide. Okay, now we are getting into the crop production, our silos and all that. We have established 33 silos with a total capacity of 1,336,000 metric tons of grains. The purpose of maintaining silos is to make sure that in times of emergency, a country has some grains or food to fall back on. Of the 33, we have concession 17. About 8 silos have been damaged during the NSAS and also some climate change issues like gully erosion and the rest of those. Graciously, we asked Mr. President and he approved an intervention, and we are currently about ready to start the rehabilitation of those 8 silos. Just to tell you how much Mr. President has done in terms of maintaining food availability in our silos. When we came, I think there was only about 19,000 metric tons of grain, assorted grains in the silos. I think from 2015 or so. Before the outbreak of COVID, Mr. President has graciously approved, and we have stocked our silos to over 90,000, actually 98,000 metric tons. As if he knew. Then what happened in 2020? Boom, like a shot in the back, coronavirus hit. Everybody was locked down. You can't go to the farm, you can't produce anything, you can't do anything. And that was when he approved the release of 70,000 metric tons of grain. What do you think would have happened if we were still at 19,000? Chaos. Then after the distribution of the 70,000, again, we requested for restocking and was restocked to about 104,000 metric tons. And then we released again some months back 42,000 metric tons. As I speak with you, Humanitarian Affairs is releasing or distributing about 12,000 metric tons to flood victims and other vulnerable Nigerians. We still have additional stock, and we will be restocking again, but we have to make sure we stabilize the market. And so silos stocking is not just for food. Emergency also include price stabilization, which we have done, because as part of that 42,000, we have released about 5,000 metric tons to poultry farmers, maize for feed. So this is how you make sure that you have your reserve. Next slide. As you can see, our silo complex here in Abuja, which we have just started a test run. Again, Mr. President approved additional funding to complete 10 large silos around the country. This is one of them that is being test run. There is one here in Niger, and across the country, we have 10 mega silos. Not silos, sorry, rice mills. Those are our rice mills, right? Wait a minute. These are our silos. Sorry, these are our silos where we keep our grains. This is during the distribution, just so you can understand. This is in Benin, where we have special, apart from silos, also have special warehouses where we keep our grains. We also have aggregation centers. These aggregation centers also we have built several, and is a partnership between public and private, 60-40 from the government. But the objective eventually is to have the private sector to own this. They will pay back the government. It's all in an effort to make sure we maintain food security. So these are the aggregation centers under PPP arrangement. 17 of them have been successfully completed and handed over. Thank you, to off-takers. Next slide. Can you zoom it, please, so I can see? It's a little too far away. There you are. Okay, this is the restocking, releasing of food commodities, what I have mentioned earlier. We are currently still releasing some food, humanitarian. And one might ask, two releases. We release sometimes the ministry itself, and then other times give to humanitarian ministry to also do the release. This is what I've mentioned, the 5,000 metric tons that has been released to poultry farmers out of the 42,000 that has been released and being released. Next. This is the bagging of the grains in our storage areas assorted. Next. That was in FCT, by the way. The ministry also, of course, being a Ministry of Agriculture, we do register farmers. So far we have registered 6,396,535 farmers. Registration is ongoing because every day you do have people that decide to come into farming, especially now that farming is no longer just for food production, but it's a full-time business, and we'll come to that later. We have also distributed about 9,920 metric tons of improved seeds. We have the Nigeria Seed Council, and their function is to make sure we have good quality seeds, whether being produced here or coming into the country for planting. Again, it goes back to you reap what you sow. We have distributed agricultural machines, over 14,000 of those. We have also distributed 67,000 liters of agrochemicals and about to about 1,397,000 farmers nationwide. Next. These are some of the distribution centers we have flagged up in different parts of the state. Actually, in all the 6 geopolitical zones, we do this distribution. Some will be flagged off by me, by the Minister of State, by the Permanent Secretary, and other directors of the ministry. Next. The same thing here is also some of the distribution. Some time back, we had issues with a particular disease that affect tomato. Is called Tuta absoluta. And you can see at the back, of those jerry cans are packages or rather kits for the detection and management of this particular disease. And on the other side, you can see other inputs that are also being distributed. The picture shows a part of Jigawa. Next. The same thing, this is rollout of distribution to farmers in Kaduna. We distribute all kinds of machineries and chemicals, as you can see. Next. Still part of distribution, again, like I said, in different places across the states of the Federation. You can see from rice mill, portable rice mills, to threshers, millers, you name it, they're there. Of course, we provide rural infrastructure, which includes water. You can see some tanks. We'll get to the rural part later. Next. This is the distribution of certified seeds and agrochemicals. Also, the ministry is always doing this to support especially smallholder farmers. We work with medium-holder farmers and, of course, the large-scale commercial farmers in terms of providing them with technical expertise, extension service, research information that is being disseminated. Next. Okay, additional achievement. Coming to the rural development is a very big component of the ministry. A lot of these activities are taking place in the rural areas, and we engage in building roads, water supply, electricity, building of markets. We have so far constructed earth roads of over 1,000 kilometers, 1,460 kilometers, and also asphalt 1,527. We have provided electrification, about 42,720 solar street light, and install 34 number 500 kVA transformers in rural areas. Installation of about 2,861 motorized solar pumps, boreholes, and hand pumps, and also the construction of 133 rural markets. This is very critical, very crucial. So why the roads? So that farmers can bring their produce out to the market. Why build the market? Sometimes the market may be too far away from where some of these farmers are, may not have the capacity to be able to travel to go, or may even cause what we call post-harvest losses. So construction of markets is a very integral part of the rural development, so that people can come close to the market from where they harvest their crops and be able to sell. And that in itself also is a way of creating economic centers, economic hubs. Again, this is construction of rural roads and culverts. Next. Rural water supply. We do provide rural water supply for drinking, for irrigation, for animals. You will see that later. These are motorized boreholes at Bage community, Ikorodu, Lagos. And we do that in every part of the country. Here, Plateau, Ibadan, Oyo, and all that. This is a water treatment plant at Aba. So we are engaged in all of this to improve the rural life. Next. Electrification. This is self-explanatory. Next. Renewable energy. This is also to show we are conscious of the climate change. We do renewable energy. We'll also see windmills. These are all ways that we want to reduce emission. Our NDC, the nationally determined contribution that we pledged during the Paris Agreement in 2016. So the ministry is also conscious of that. And that is part of the smart agriculture that we are talking about. Rural markets, we have discussed that. Next. Okay, dams, rehabilitation of dams and construction of dams, as a matter of fact. Because we engage in dry season farming, as we are planning to do this year very aggressively, especially because of the flood. We'll come to that later also. So we do construct dams and we rehabilitate so that they can be used for irrigation. Some of them even for drinking water. It depends on which part of the rural area you are. We do construct water harvesting structures. And you will see again when it comes to issue of flooding, these water harvesting structures do retain some of the flood water so that you can use it positively after the damage that it has caused. So it's not all lost. So these are some of the earth dams, some of the water harvesting structures. This is in Katsina. Go ahead, move next, go ahead, next. Okay, livestock. Of course, agric is crop, livestock, fisheries, and whatever that comes in between. We have the NLTP, National Livestock Transformation Plan. Again, this is something that this present administration developed to improve the livestock subsector of this country. And let me also report and thank Mr. President for returning the NLTP under the direct control of the ministry. It has been here and there, but now is a plan that is under the direct control of the ministry. You will see in livestock, of course, we are talking about extensive grazing or limited grazing. So, I mean, extensive grazing is harder on both the livestock and the pastoralists. So, when we start thinking of some kind of restriction, not restriction in the, not really ranching, but reserves, grazing reserves. Grazing reserves are large. You can roam around within grazing reserves and still not be going from end to end. Thank you. Okay, well, but let him, yeah, for me. Okay, so, yeah, I can see that. You want me to be doing that? Whoever is doing it should please continue doing that because it will take too much of my attention. Yeah. Okay, no, come back a little bit, please. Come back a little bit. Okay, so the pasture, I want to talk about that. It's very, very important. It's all about taking these animals to where they can graze when there is no, during the rainy season, you know, they can graze almost everywhere. During dry season, they have to move where they said for greener pasture. With the reserves, we have the control of actually irrigating and producing pasture for the animals and can still roam within the grazing reserve. Thank you. So you can see that we have established this in about 16 states to promote the production and processing in the country. Also, moving to dairy. Under livestock, you have different also subsectors. So we have the dairy development also. We have, again, in different states. We have centers in 12 states of the Federation to strengthening of dairy cooperatives and provision of dairy equipment. Again, this is all being done under the livestock department, animal husbandry, if you will. Livestock breed improvement, we engage in even artificial insemination and all other forms of making sure that we improve our livestock sector. Grazing reserves. We have a number of grazing reserves in the country. Under the NLTP, you have grazing reserves. Now, there is a new program to complement the NLTP, the grazing reserve, and it's called LPRES, National Livestock Productivity Resilience Support Plan. This is, again, like a subsector in the grazing reserve. You can have an LPRES in a grazing reserve, or you can have it as a standalone. State will write to the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and request, express interest to be included in these programs, and they are government and state. The LPRES is a new program that is now being financed by over 500 million US dollars. This will be launched very soon. The memo is on its way to the Federal Executive Council. Of course, NLTP is a running program already, but LPRES, everything has been signed, ready to go. Next. Okay. Also under that, we have the issue of conflict. Farmers hardest conflict. These are, can you shrink back? Thank you. These are all taken care of under the NLTP and LPRES. Next week, on the 12th, not next week, next month, precisely on the 12th of December, we'll have a regional summit on farmer-herder conflict. And this is to strengthen interaction, relationship between these two groups. It is impossible for one group to exist without the other. So the ministry is doing everything possible under various programs to make sure that we have harmony between the two groups. Next. Livestock breed improvement, I mentioned artificial insemination. Here we have the National Breed Improvement Program. Thank you, just leave it like that. That we do sensitization and training of artificial insemination, which I have mentioned, service providers in Kano, Bauchi, Oyo, Oshun, and Adamawa State, and also for tagging and all that stuff is there. We are pushing to make sure our livestock sector is growing at the pace and rate that we can to support the population of this country. Next. This is the traceability, which was just launched last week. There you can see me with the SO of SUNIPE. We launched this. This is really a program, again, that is exciting. You can actually trace right there on the dashboard, because each of the animals will be tagged with a chip that can tell you where that animal is at any given time. This is really an improvement. So whether an animal is stolen, you will be able to trace where it is. Next. Pasture development, this is where we are also, this is the flag of at I believe Pycon Quarry Grazing Reserve, where we are planting some kind of special grass really that is fast growing and highly nutritious for the animals. This will really reduce, again, like I said, the issue of traversing long distances and running into the very conflict that we are trying to avoid. These are all some of the equipment, the seeds that we are distributing to Grazing Reserve. This is actually an LPRES center within a Grazing Reserve of Pycon Quarry here outside Abuja. Next. Continuous development of Grazing Reserve, of course, provide areas for water. You can see Gombe, Borno, and all of those areas. We do have also primary animal handling centers. Again, because of the issue of zoonotic diseases, we work with our vet doctors and technicians, technologists to make sure animals are healthy. Again, we'll come to that later in the presentation. Next. Dairy development, again, working with all kinds of groups. And this one improvement is these special canisters or containers where milk can be reserved for much longer period, thereby adding a live shelf for that milk before it gets to the processing center, rather than the regular calabash or plastic containers. This really do a better job for cooling and all that stuff. Next. There they are. Next. Okay. Smallholder poultry development. This is rehabilitation of cottage poultry processing facilities. We launched one in Abuja not too long ago, and we have several of these constructed across the country. Next. Distribution of improved indigenous feed. So just as we do with crop for human consumption, the same thing with animals. We have to make sure whatever we are feeding those animals is really good from good seeds, whether it's poultry or large ruminant or small ruminant is all part of the planning, and it's always nationwide. Next. Okay, construction of primary animal health care centers, all part of the veterinary. This is the veterinary department. The one before, we are dealing with the animal husbandry department. Of course, they work together, producers and caregivers. We have 19 live bird market constructed. One of the reasons for this, because of the avian influenza, we make sure that it's well under control, is being supervised by professionals that can detect and contain, if necessary, any possible disease outbreak. And then, construction of those who have done that, 28 number renovated abattoirs are very important. Abattoirs, the veterinary department is doing that. Vaccination, absolutely important. About 15 million, over 15 million really have been vaccinated against transboundary animal diseases. Our borders are porous, so animals just can just cross without even knowing, mix perhaps with some of our animals. By the time they return back into their countries, whether it's Cameroon or Niger, maybe something has happened. So we have to be on top of our game to make sure that we continuously vaccinate our animals. Okay, spraying of chemicals over that many hectares, as you can see. Next. Okay, this is all about vaccination. Next. Next. Keep going. Okay, this is construction of the animal health care centers. This is in Calabar, as we have done in other states. Next. Okay, this is the lab bird market we have talked about. Next. Okay, spray of quail birds. We do use, of course, aircraft to spray transboundary migratory pests. That includes birds, includes grasshoppers and other pests that are coming across from other countries. Next. Can you zoom a little bit? Thank you. Fish production. So here we are with our fish department, fisheries department. So far you can see from where we are, 2015, 865 metric tons to over 1,365 metric tons. That is an improvement quite a bit in the fish. We are still working hard to increase based on our demand and whatever gap that we may have. Establishment of fish clusters, distribution of fish input, licensing of from 84 to 170 fishing trawlers have been licensed to cover up the gap. Training of fish farmers. Next slide. We do have the Oceanography and Marine Research Institute. This is our ship. It's big, can go out in the sea for up to about 90 days for research in various issues of marine and oceanography research. Next. This is the monitoring station so that we can monitor what is happening. We have just acquired 6 additional trawlers, which we did not have. So this is also an improvement, again, in the last 6 years. Next. This is all about fisheries. Of course, we do the artificial and also lakes. There are all kinds of ways to improve and to help fishery farmers. We have canoes that we construct and also assist fishery farmers with. Go ahead. Next. These are some of our laboratories where, of course, we carry out testing, research to make sure, again, the fish are healthy and to make sure whatever we are feeding the fish, especially the ones in the fish ponds, are being kept healthy. Next. Wheat production. Wheat is a very essential grain, we know that. We do have gap in our wheat production, but again, we just recently also launched the wheat strategy document. That's for the production of wheat. Already we have secured 134 million US dollars to boost wheat production in the country. But one of the things is we're also working with private sector to make sure that we produce enough wheat. Currently, we are facing some issues, of course, because of the Russian-Ukraine war. We do business with them to cover up the gap in our wheat production. Next. Rice value chain. This is where I'm talking about the rice mills. There are 10 rice mills currently under construction. We just received additional intervention to complete them. This one you are seeing here is being already tested. This is the one at Kwali. And we have in Kano, we have in Niger. I think some of the states are there. We will be finishing those Ekiti, Ogun, Bayelsa, FCT, Adamawa, Jigawa. There are 10 of them across the country. Next, for the rice value chain, that is agri incubation centers, agribusiness. I mentioned earlier that agriculture is all about business as well as food production. There is tremendous amount of resources, which is the land. We have the geopolitical, ecological zones that we can plant anything, anytime of the year. So we are building these incubation centers across the country to train youth and women in the business of agriculture. Next. Training of extension workers. The ministry has been training a number of extension workers and deployed to the 36 states of the Federation through the ADPs, that is the Agricultural Development what's the program? Thank you, the program. So the extension is very important. Our research result must be communicated to the farmers. Application of fertilizer, planting of certain special seeds, all is the work of extension to teach the farmers what to do, how to do, and to gain the best out of their investment. Next. Still extension workers. Next. The Presidential Fertilizer Initiative. This is to improve fertilizer in the country. In 2015, it was established, in 2016, through which a number of plants increased in the country from 8 to about 200. Now, as a result of the intervention, the annual fertilizer production rose from 300,000 metric tons per year to about 7 million metric tons. And then the National Fertilizer Quality Control also has been doing its job to make sure, again, the fertilizer is of good quality. Next. Export of agricultural commodities. We have cash crops. If we know we have cocoa, a lot of you know that. Shrimps and hibiscus. Some of you may not know that, but it's also a big honor. We just exported containers of hibiscus to Mexico, and this is after a stoppage for some time, but this current administration was able to resuscitate and continue with the business. Next. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Agricultural Research Council. This is our research council, which is supervising our research institutions and colleges. We are, of course, we have a lot of researchers that are constantly innovating, producing the best seeds, producing the best medicines and inputs for the agricultural sector. And this is all across the agri sector, whether it's crops, livestock, fisheries, you name it. And also recently, the ARCN also just established its own television and radio
specifically for information to farmers. This is quite an achievement under this particular administration. Next. Okay, you can see the trajectory. The agri sector has been contributing steadily to the gross domestic product, even to the gross national product. The GDP, we always talk about GDP, but even the GNP, what I've just talked about exporting hibiscus, cocoa, and the rest of them. So you can see how it has been going. 2021, in fact, in just the last reporting by NBS, the agri sector contributed far beyond any other sector. The second sector coming is like about 10 points or something behind. So the agri sector is really the area of diversification. Next. Challenges and remedies. Impact of climate change, of course, and I talked about climate smart agriculture. Insecurity. We do have advocacy. We also use the agro rangers, specially trained civil defense personnel to undertake the protection of farmlands across the country. Inflation, yes, there's inflation, but this is a global phenomenon right now. Of course, we are watchful and concerned about our own country. What are we doing? We are making sure that we increase production across the value chains. With more availability, of course, you will have lower prices. It's simple economics of supply and demand. Low mechanization, I spoke about the tractorization through green imperatives and other areas that we are working with. High cost of input. We are also moving towards the production and promotion of organic farming, sustaining the use of high variety of local seeds. And also the issue of low financing, yes, has been a problem, but thank God, Mr. President, again, just signed the establishment of the National Agricultural Development Fund. This is like the equivalent of TED Fund for tertiary education. We have steady income now. 5% of the wheat and rice levy and 0.5% of the natural resources fund. So at least now, apart from the budgetary allocation every year, this is another source of financing. Of course, we do still work with international organizations that provide grants and sometimes counterpart funding and all of that. Next. I think we have come to the conclusion. The achievement recorded in the sector are attributed to Mr. President's commitment to diversifying economy through agriculture, synergies amongst the public, private sector, and partners, which must be sustained to continually grow agriculture, diversify the economy, and ensure food and nutrition security. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, for that wonderful presentation. A professor once told me that any presentation that is laden with statistics, pictorials, graphs, and all sorts is a quality presentation. Thank you very much. To every action, there is always a reaction. We have come to a very important segment of this engagement, the question and answer section. I noticed that some of our journalists just came in while the program was on, but the rule is still the same. When you are recognized to speak, you tell us your name, the media organization you are representing, and please restrict your questions or your comments to the issues addressed by the Honorable Minister in his presentation. We appreciate if you are decent enough in the use of language. I want to thank you so much for your readiness to cooperate with us. At this point, I want to declare the floor opened for your questions, please. Gentlemen of the media. 1, 2. Any other? 3 at the back. Any other? Thank you so much. We start. Let the microphone go to the first person. Thank you very much.
Honorable Minister and other top government officials here present. My name is Sonny Daniel. I am an editor with Vanguard newspaper. This is a very solid presentation that has the potential to give hope to Nigerians, given the quantity of food produced, the number of agri-centers, silos, and all of that. Let me ask you, Honorable Minister, the silos that have been established by the federal government, the farm implements, tractors, harvesters, machines, what qualifies a farmer to benefit or to draw from these farm implements? If I want to start a farming business, am I qualified to draw from these tools? That's number one. Final one. You have projects in the areas of roads, markets, irrigations, and all of that. Again, how accessible and affordable are these to an average farmer so that we can reduce prices, make food more accessible to Nigerians, and reduce hunger, which appears to be inching higher? Thank you very much.
The second question, please. No, at the back. Yeah.
Thank you. Honorable Ministers, my name is Leon Usigwe. I'm the Abuja Bureau Chief of the Nigerian Tribune. Sir, you have mentioned the government's vision to diversify the economy through agriculture. And I know that President Buhari has consistently himself, advocated the return to farmlands by Nigerians. Many citizens have indeed heeded his plea and have returned to farm. But the problem now is that many of those citizens too are regretting their action, because when they take part in farming and it is time to harvest their crops, Fulani herders take their cattle into these farms and eat them up. I have witnessed it myself. It is not what I was told. I have witnessed it firsthand. So what can you do as a government who is encouraging people to go to farm? What can you do to protect, subsistence farmers who are daily at the receiving end of these activities of cattle herders? Thank you.
Yes, the third question at the back. The man at the back. Okay, we'll come to you. Let's just take.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ministers. My name is Zakios Babalola from Radio Nigeria. Yes, you made mention of the National Agricultural Development Fund, recently assented by Mr. President. I want to know from you, sir, when is the takeoff of this fund? I want to know from you. Then secondly, sir, on the issue of fertilizer, we know that the president has invested a lot of money under this presidential initiative on fertilizer. And as of today, the price of fertilizer is on the increase. Initially, it was 5,500 naira, but now we are talking about 24,000, 25,000 for fertilizer. What are you doing, sir, in this regard to ensure that common farmers can have access to fertilizer? And the last one, on the issue of health risk that you mentioned, livestock productivity and resilience support project. We know for like 2 years now we have been hearing about this project. And I thought maybe the project has been withdrawn by the World Bank, except until I listened to you this morning. So I wanted to shed more light on this project. When is it commencing fully? Thank you very much, sir.
The last one, please, you give it to.
Honorable Ministers, my name is Abdurrahman Abdurrao, Blueprint Newspapers. A very interesting presentation, no doubt. And if a nation, plans very well, the tendency is that you get the right results. It's good we are planning. But my worry is this. We have put all measures in place to ensure there is efficient food supply. I remember you said at the start of your presentation, we produce what we consume and we consume what we produce. Fantastic. But why has this not really impacted on the prices of food in the market? Because it's a serious worry when we are producing all of these things and we keep buying things at increasing prices. Thank you.
Honorable Minister, maybe we'll just take the last one from Mr. Yusuf Ali. Yes.
The Honorable Minister, my name is Yusuf Ali. I work with the Nation newspaper. Sir, do we really have enough to eat in this country? That's the first question. The second one, if we have 200 fertilizer plants in the country, as a nation, have we stopped importation of fertilizers? Did you get the second question? We have 200 fertilizer plants in the country. Has that stopped importation of fertilizers into our country?
Thank you very much. The Honorable Minister may wish to give his response to all these questions. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
Okay, thank you. Starting with the first question, how do you get input? All this rollout we do based on state, but also we work with cooperatives, collectives, whether youth or women, farm associations, societies. It's difficult to do individually. However, people do write and request, and then we look at. We are really very conscious of who come and say, I'm a farmer and I want to do this and I want this. So the best way is through all these cooperatives, all these farm associations. It works well. If you as a farmer, maybe in your community you have other farmers, form a small group, approach the ministry. Where we have issues, we'll go and check. There are times when we actually go and look at the farms. Because, some people will just say, and then they will just take and straight to the market, you will find it there. So that's one way you can get. And this is available to Nigerians across the country. If you see, all our distributions are across the 6 geopolitical zones and FCT. Rural input, the same thing. Now, for rural development, the ministry, of course, having been mandated to holistically develop and care for the rural area, especially as it relates to agriculture, we have controllers in each state. Part of their job is looking at what needs to be done in this state.
And also, even that, you have also communities that will send requests and will still go and take a look and see what we need to do. Apart from our own, we also, I mean, it's open for people to write us. We receive a lot of mails and we painstakingly go through these mails and see what we can do. Okay, so that's that one. Diversification and return to farms, and then only for cattle to come and eat your crops. Well, one of the issues, this is an old-age problem of farmer-herders conflict, and it's all from the previous really extensive grazing. And I don't think at any given time intentionally herders push their cattle to go and eat farm produce or crops. Accidentally, the cows might stray and go in, and this has been the source of the conflict. And so that's why ranching is the easiest and the best thing to do worldwide. Even here, I mean, in Africa, extensive grazing has been the norm in all the countries that you know. You will have people from Niger going all the way to Nigeria or Cameroon or this and that, all the way. But again, you hardly see that now. So this ranching or grazing reserves, if you will, you know, let me make this clear. Ranching, grazing reserve is one and the same thing. The difference sometimes is the size. If it's a ranch, it's large, you can call it a reserve. If it's small, to grazing reserve, until when we explain fully. And the state has now accepted. I said, okay, if you want to call your own ranch, we'll write ranch. That's it. But it serves the same function. So the government is doing everything possible to curtail this. That's why we have the NLTP. That is why we have the L-Press, is all to address. And that's why on the 12th, please, I invite you to come to Hilton and participate in the regional summit on herder-farmer conflict. We are very interested and serious about that. And the National Agricultural Development Fund, when is it taken off? Well, immediately Mr. President has assented to the bill. It's a law now. And if it said we are getting 0.5% of natural resources, 5% of rice and wheat levy, I can assure you this is almost instant. Agency is alive because it has been signed into law. And then fertilizer price increase. Okay, yes. Well, here are some of the issues that I have said earlier, that inflation worldwide is an issue. Whether you believe it or not, the havoc wreaked by COVID-19 from 2020 to date has not been completely resolved yet. There are still some supply chains that have not completely opened. You go to America, you go to UK, you will see shelves, empty shelves. It's not because they don't have the food, because it's still stocked way back, somewhere behind the Panama Canal or Suez Canal, anywhere. Some of the supply are still hanging. So raw materials, precursors to manufacturing are still not available. So the price increase. The same thing is affecting Nigeria. We are not insulated from this. And then the Russian-Ukraine war, we do buy fertilizer or other precursors from Ukraine, from Russia, from Belarus. Belarus is also being part of it because they are like helping or allowing Russia to use them as launch pad. So there are some of these blockages still. And of course, climate change is still wreaking its own havoc. But as these things resolve and increase in our own local, Mr. President directed, when the Russian-Ukraine war broke out, for us to look inward to see if we can find our own fertilizer precursors deposit, which we found some in Sokoto, I think around Bauchi, Gombe, some deposit of phosphate, which is one of the major precursors of making this. So as that happens, we'll have price decrease. And also we are looking to where we can import certain things into the country if we cannot do it from Ukraine. Every country import, no matter, America is the biggest agricultural country in the world. They still buy bananas from South America and some other things. It's just world economics. Sometimes you have to buy somebody something even if you don't like it. But especially if you like it, you buy so that they will buy some of yours. El Press. El Press, I mentioned earlier, it has been approved. About over $500 million. All done. Just waiting for the stamp of the Federal Executive Council, which I can assure you will get. And I just spilled some water here. So that's that. El Press is coming. Not going to take too long. Prices increase, inflation. The same thing I just explained. 3 weeks ago, a friend of mine living in London said to me, it usually is like 25 pounds for him to fuel his car for the week. Now it's costing him about $100 pounds. It's all of that. All of these things have to open up. The world is still not back where it was pre-2020 still. Do we have enough to eat? Absolutely. Absolutely, we have enough to eat in this country. There is no shortage of food. Price increase? Yes. It's better 100 times to have inflation than to have no food. I can say this anywhere. We are self-sufficient in rice. We produce our own rice. We are #1 producer of rice in Africa, #4 in the world. #1 in producer of cassava, #1 producer of yam, #2 producer of sorghum after America, #3 or #1 in millet. We have enough to eat and will continue to have enough to eat by the grace of God. We are producing. Yes. Importation, I just said. Oh yeah, smuggling is one thing too. I mean, people will smuggle food out. Trading between countries, among countries is normal, is usual, but there are certain smuggling that we are stopping. We are currently working with Custom, with Ministry of Foreign Finance to curtail the smuggling of certain food commodities. But there's nothing wrong with importation or exportation. It's part of the world economy, and especially if you produce. There will be no shortage of food in Nigeria by the grace of God. This flood, yes, has caused some issues with production because it has damaged some farmlands. That is why we're undertaking aggressive dry season farming. I just approved the first trench to do what we call residual moisture farming. This is to use fast-growing seeds in areas where the floodwaters have receded. The moisture there is enough to have this grow, and then the dry season itself come after the residual. And we have harnessed some of the floodwaters to be used for the dry season farming for irrigation. Thank you.
I want to believe the Honorable Minister of Information wants to make some remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister of Agriculture. I think you've very comprehensively addressed the issues. I just want to put a few things in context. People talk about the price of fertilizer, but they fail to realize that between 2017 and today, the prices of the 3 major ingredients of fertilizer, which is phosphate, potash, and urea, the prices have gone through the roofs. Just to give you the context, in 2017, 1 metric ton of phosphate cost $290 US. Today, the same 1 metric ton costs $1,255 US. 2017, potash, 1 metric ton cost $256 US. Today, the same 1 metric tons cost $1,187 US. Urea, in 2017, 1 metric ton of urea was $300 US. Today, 1 metric ton of urea is $1,037 US. So you can see that the ingredients of fertilizer have gone up, and this is, I'm talking about international prices, not things that are within the control of Nigeria. But one thing you cannot take away from this administration, one is that between 2017 and 2015 and today, we increased the number of fertilizer blending plants from 4 to 72. And that even despite these increases internationally, been able to, through long-term planning, to be able to really, freeze the price of certain, ingredients, and that is why we still have the fertilizers at the price you have it today. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, this is the much we can take for today. I want to thank you for your time. We thank the Honorable Ministers. We thank the Permanent Secretary, the Chief Executives, Directors, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen. We have come to the end of this engagement. May we please rise as we take the national anthem. Thank you. God bless you all.
NTA, you can't beat the rich.
Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker believes that taxes are the lifeblood of government, and the only way government can remain in governance is to make sure that nobody escapes. She is the Honorable Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning. It's my pleasure to welcome her, Dr. Mrs. Zainab Shamsuna Ahmed.
Good morning, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. While the MC is still thinking of a name to give to the chairman of CARTA, I want to join the chairman of the FRS and the president of CARTA to welcome you all to your second home, the beautiful city of Abuja. But first, let me pay my respects to the Secretary of the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, and also to the Chairman of CARTA, Mr. Dakut Mohammed, and all of the council members of CARTA, the president of CARTA and the chairman of FRS, Mr. Mohammed Nami, board members of the FRS, members of the Joint Tax Board, professional tax practitioners, members of the Diplomatic Corps, all participants in the conference, in the 42nd CARTA conference, members of the press, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor and a privilege for me to be here in your midst today and to again welcome you to the 42nd Technical Conference of the Commonwealth Association of Tax Administrators, CARTA. Nigeria is glad that this year's train of CARTA has come to Abuja, the second time that CARTA conference is coming to Abuja. The first one was in 2010, when this same conference was hosted in the beautiful city of Abuja. It is important to note that this conference is coming on the heels of the very successful 7th General Assembly of the African Tax Administration Forum, ATAF, which was recently held in Lagos. The choice of Nigeria as a destination for this important international tax events is not by accident. Nigeria has remained in the forefront of the global efforts at finding equitable and lasting solutions to international tax issues. And let me just mention a few. First of all, the long-standing issues of imbalance in the allocation of taxing rights between source and resident jurisdictions, I beg your pardon. Secondly, the information asymmetry between multinational enterprises and tax authorities in developing countries. Third, the issue of base erosion and profit shifting. And fourth, the tax challenges of the digital economy. Over the past few years, the government of Nigeria has committed significant amount of monetary and human resources to champion the cause of developing countries. It is important for CARTA and similar organizations to lend their voice with ours to insist that skewed international tax rules should be straightened out for the good of all. The theme of this year's conference, which is tax administration in a digital era, is very apt and it is very timely. Considering that the world had moved away from the brick and mortar model of businesses into past-phase globalized and digital models. Certainly, tax administration's processes must keep pace with changes in the business world. An African adage says, where the hunter has learned to shoot without missing, the birds that would avoid the hunter's soup pot must learn to fly without perching. Since businesses are evolving from the physical presence to the virtual place, tax administrations must also shift gear into the virtual realm. I'm hoping that this conference will discuss and recommend solutions to issues that include digitization of tax administration. It is the fact that tax administrations of most developing countries are based on manual processes. In these tax administrations, ICT function is limited to provision of hardware and basic software in support capacity, whereas automation, large data, artificial intelligence, and machine learning capabilities are central to effective tax administration. Such capabilities will enable tax authorities to do e-invoicing, pre-populate tax returns, and carry out automated tax risk profiling and several other functions. Secondly, fair international tax rules. The current international tax rules are skewed against source countries, particularly developing countries. Painfully, this anomaly in the current international tax rules is again influencing the two-pillar solution of the inclusive framework. We have observed, for instance, that Amount A, profit meant for market jurisdictions, is progressively being chipped away in favor of jurisdictions where multinational corporations are resident. Another example of an anomaly of the Amount A rules is the requirement for jurisdictions to surrender domestic tax disputes to mandatory and binding ruling of an arbitration panel composed and sitting outside of the legal system of the respective jurisdictions. President and chairman and members of CATA. It is common knowledge that taxation is a matter of domestic law. Despite arising from the interpretation of domestic legislation, should only be resolved within those domestic legislations and by the people schooled to interpret them. The discussion to change the rules must start now. The world must rework the profit allocation rules used for transfer pricing and also the share of taxing rights by tax treaty partners. Nigeria is of the view that CATA is that organization that is best placed to push this dialogue. Also, on capacity development, there are many new things emerging in the field of taxation, particularly taxation of multinationals. Tax administrations must continuously upscale the skills of their staff so that they can effectively and efficiently handle emerging tax issues. As such, tax officers must be trained and retrained on tax technicalities, including new international tax rules and also the social effects of taxation. Number 4, nomad workers. There's an emerging trend occasioned by the digital era, and that is remote working. So an individual resident in one country working remotely for an entity resident in another country. The fire of remote working was given vent by the lockdowns of the COVID-19 pandemic. This is raising many questions such as tax residency, employment tax, tax nexus for the company, and possibility of local taxes. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, the digital era is here. It is exciting, and it is providing a lot of possibilities. There are exotic products. There is improved efficiency. There is also remote working. However, in all of this also are embedded tax challenges that include problems with identifying, tracking, and assessing taxable transactions, incomes from companies as well as incomes from individuals. Excellent rules are based on physical presence, which render them inapplicable in the digital era. So we must review the rules and make them work. Countries must cast aside their differences or their individual self-interest to jointly develop workable, simple, and fair solutions. Nigeria is committed to working with other jurisdictions and international bodies to achieve a win-win solution. The Amount A proposal being developed by the Inclusive Framework is not achieving consensus because it is not founded on win-win principles. Only rules that promote a win-win solution can achieve the support of all. President and Chairman, as well as members of CATA, let me also conclude by urging delegates and experts to use the opportunities presented by this conference to speak frankly on the issues that I have highlighted and a lot of others that I have not. And also to pay special attention to the issue of harmonization of fragmented taxes systems. This discussion must be underpinned by strong partnership and mutual benefit. I also will call on this conference to focus on solutions, sharing experiences that have succeeded, and also to apply the success to the tax administration of the digital era. I look forward to the outcome of this conference and again join my colleague, the chairman of FIS, to welcome you to the city of Abuja. Good morning.
Thank you very much. Honorable Minister of Finance, Budget, and National Planning. Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me also inform you that apart from the NTA, we are also live on TVC News. So TVC, we thank you very much. Hello. Recently, a very naughty person said that a fine is tax paid for doing something wrong, while tax is a fine paid for doing something right. And so, Your Excellencies, I welcome you. Our next speaker, who will be officially declaring open this conference, is a lawyer, politician, management consultant, boardroom guru of considerable repute, and a world-class public servant. Today, he is the Secretary to the Government of the Federation of Nigeria. Please join us and welcome Mr. Boss Mustafa.
The Honorable Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Haji Zainab Samsuna Ahmed, CON, the Chairman of the Commonwealth Association of Tax Administrators, Qatar, Mr. Datuk Muhammad Nizam Sairi, who is also the Chief Executive Officer, Director General of the Inland Revenue Board of Malaysia, and other members of the Qatar Association, the President of Qatar, and also the Executive Chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Services of Nigeria, Mr. Muhammad Nami, the Vice Chairman of the Commonwealth Association of Tax Administrators, Qatar, ably represented by the Deputy British High Commissioner, the Executive Director of the Commonwealth Association of Tax Administrators, Mr. Duncan Onduru, the DG of NIDA. NIDA is the primary agency in Nigeria responsible for our digitalization efforts and certification. The former chairman of Federal Inland Revenue Service and managing Partner Compliance Professionals PLC, Mrs. Feku Wakaru. Chairpersons, Director Generals, and Commissioners of tax authorities across the Commonwealth here present, and those joining virtually, heads of delegation, invited guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen of the press. It gives me great pleasure to welcome all participants, most especially our international delegates to Abuja, Nigeria, for the 42nd Technical Conference of the Commonwealth Association of Tax Administrators, Qatar. May I use this opportunity to commiserate with member countries on the demise of the former head of the Commonwealth nations, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, who added great value to her immediate and international community, and I am certain she will be greatly missed by all who admired and knew her. Let me congratulate His Majesty King Charles III on his ascension to the throne and as the substantive head of the Commonwealth. It is my hope that he will sustain and improve on the legacies of Her Majesty. We as a nation are delighted to have the privileged opportunity of hosting this conference comprising of tax administrations from 47 Commonwealth member states, tax organizations,
tax authorities, tax institutes, policymakers, and other special guests around the world. As we all know, earlier this month, Nigeria hosted the 7th General Assembly of the African Tax Administrations Forum in Lagos. It is not coincidental that all these events are happening here in Nigeria now. Rather, we are passing the message that beyond participating in global discourse around issues of illicit financial flows, domestic resource mobilization, environmental taxes and taxation of the digital economy, among others, Nigeria is eager to provide a platform for frank and forthright discussions on issues that have critical implications for all and inevitably impact on the global economy. In addition, facilitating these discussions and being a hub for beneficial interactions of nations afford us the opportunity to emphasize the point that Nigeria is a safe and conducive destination for doing business, and that Nigeria has potentials for investment opportunities. In the face of evolving, taking some strategic steps in creating a conducive environment for business activities to thrive and encouraging foreign direct investment. These measures include the provision of trade and investment incentives, review of tax policies and legislation to improve on tax certainty and fairness, and implementation of our Ease of Doing Business program, which monitors all indices of doing business in Nigeria with a view to removing bottlenecks that are potentially a clog in the wheel of economic progress and prosperity. While Nigeria, like most countries of the world, is not without its challenges, my message to you is this: come and do business in Nigeria, and I'm sure those who have already availed themselves of the vast opportunities will testify that the benefits far outweigh the challenges. The theme for this conference, which is tax administration in digital era, is a welcome one, considering the emergence of disruptive technologies. It is no longer news that rapid advancements in science and technology have led to the evolution of communication channels that have reduced pre-existing barriers to trade to a bare minimum. These innovations are tearing down the restraints of traditional trading methods and processes, thereby making the specter of a world market a real thriving proposition. Permit me to mention that the digitalization of businesses coupled with increased purchasing power has meant that the provision of remote access to goods and services has grown in leaps and bounds and will only continue to grow exponentially. The challenge is for tax authorities to seize the moment and ensure that the opportunities presented by technology do not serve as a basis for loss of revenue due to our inability to keep up with the times. The question, therefore, is what should be the focus of tax administrations in this digitalized era to ensure voluntary tax compliance and secure tax revenues? I expect that over the next few days, you all will be answering these questions and much more. Ladies and gentlemen, as much as I would want to resist the temptation of delving into the technical session, as my role here today is to welcome you, let me mention that even now, after the worst is presumed to be over, many economies, especially those of developing nations, continue to grapple with the effects of the global economic downturn occasioned by COVID-19 and geopolitical conflicts around the world, amongst others. This conference presents an opportunity to exchange ideas on sustainable financing for government programs and development initiatives without undue reliance on borrowing and debt financing. Therefore, I trust that you will have a robust conversation and that will come up with useful recommendations that can be used in this regard. Finally, it is gratifying to see that participants could attend this technical conference despite challenges, including travel restrictions. We hope and pray that you will have a hitch-free transit even when you prepare to go back home. Distinguished participants, special guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is now my pleasure to officially declare this 42nd Technical Conference of the Commonwealth Association of Tax Administrators open. Before I conclude, let me urge participants that are coming from different parts of the world that as you have taken the time to visit our nation, we are truly indebted and grateful to you. And there is a lot to enjoy in Abuja. It's a beautiful city. Our people are warm. Our people are loud. Our people are boisterous. Take the warmth and the hospitality and the sunshine of our country when you return. Leave the loudness with us. You can't receive nothing. Welcome to Abuja, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Thank you, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa. And for your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this brings to a close the formal opening ceremony. And so this is what we'll do. We'll have a group photograph right there in front of the stage. This will be for all the people sitting in front, the head of delegation and our special guest. We'll have that now. And immediately after, we'll have the press conference at the booth outside that will involve the SGF, the Honorable Minister of Finance, the President of Qatar, Chairman of Qatar, and the Executive Director of Qatar. Right now, can we, are the photographers ready now? Okay. Yes, please, can we rise those in front for the group photograph now?
While the photographs are going on, we also have a general photograph outside before the tea break. But the rest of us will have a general photograph outside before the tea break, while this photograph is going on when we break. Thank you. On this side, we have the fountain. We'll have the group photograph for all delegates. Thank you.
And so, while the photograph is going on, immediately after the national anthem, and we close the opening ceremony, my sister from Kenya, Wakene, will be taking charge of events, ably helped and assisted by Mr. Femi. The program will run the event in the next 3 or 4 days, and they will be in your faces, enjoying their voices and their beautiful faces. So it will be a Wakeni Femo show. Now that the paragraphs are over, please shall we all rise now for the national anthem, please. For the other photograph, Mr. Femiaga will be in charge. You direct them where to go to. And then tea break. How many minutes you have? 30 minutes? 30 minutes for tea break, and then we'll be back here. We'll start the aircraft. Thank you very much. Beautiful world. We are our special guest to exit the hall on the right. There are delegates, for all 40 delegates here. So after our special guest, we're going for that photograph. After photograph exited, we're going for that special photograph out there. So all 40 delegates, prepare to go for the special photograph through this door. As you go along, please come with your handheld devices, your bag, take it along with you. Please, your handheld devices and your valuables, take it with you as you go for the photographs. After that, we take tea. So colleagues, this way our country delegates, the taking place while the photograph going on. Our country delegates through this door, please. Country delegates through this door. We're going for the group photograph. Next time, carry back. Country delegates, please take your bag and valuables with you. Your electronic devices, take it with you while we go through this. We'll take the photographs, then we'll have our tea also served there. Can the LOC members please leave? LOC members please, let's lead our delegates to the photograph by the fountain side. Members of LOC, please let's lead our delegates to the fountain side for photographs.